Hello, everybody. This is Zainreborn. This is the video where I basically talk about the A Dinosaur Story Remake and the behind the scenes. Yeah, I'm not scripting this or anything. That's not how I do things. I'm basically just gonna talk into a microphone for an hour, and then after it's done, then I just cut out all the bits I don't like, and then also just slap on some music, throw in some animations, a funny meme here and there, and that'll work out the best for me. So, let's begin. We're gonna start with the very beginning, which was the original, of course. I remember somewhere in 2018 or 2019, I was watching the original A Dinosaur Story from Hoops and Dino Man, and then as we were watching, my brother was like, "This is great and all, but I wish there was a way to watch this in HD." For some reason, I translated that to, "Hey, I'll make a remake then." And that is literally how this all started. Fast forward to what I think, it was probably 2019. I uploaded a video of an episode of Sodor's Dinosaurs, episode 12, called Cast Calling, which was basically me making the announcement that I was going to make a Dinosaur Story remake. That's basically where it started. And to my surprise, there was actually a lot of support. And it also never occurred to me just how big the A Dinosaur Story fandom really is. It's very big, honestly. I should take note that a lot of the dinosaurs that I had were already borrowing names from the A Dinosaur Story. I'm sure I'm not the only one who did this, where after watching the movie for the first time, I grabbed all of my dinosaurs that looked similar and said, "You are Noasaurus, you are Ceratosaurus, you are not a Saltosaurus, but now you are Saltosaurus." Fast forward to an episode of the Dinosaur King commentaries on Indominus Rex 01's channel. After we were done recording a session with Sketchy, we started talking about, Indominus brought up, at this point, Indominus already knew that I was going to do a remake, and then he just told Sketchy about it, and he was honestly, I think he became my biggest supporter at that moment, because he gave a lot of advice and a lot of tidbits on what to do. It was after we recorded Dinosaur King commentary episode 40, the one with Sam I Am the Allosaurus. This was an important part for the Life Machine, because him, and a lot of people, honestly, were not a fan of the Life Machine, just suddenly saying, "Oh, hey, let's just bring everyone back to life." So then I came up with the idea, okay, what if I got rid of the Life Machine, but I kill less characters? And they were both on board with that. So that's where I got the idea to only kill, one main character. Baleen doesn't count as a main character. She dies in the beginning. And then fast forward to, 2020, February, January, it was snowing, and I filmed the very first footage of A Dinosaur Story, which was the snow scene, which I find quite poetic, since the first time I discovered Hoops and Dino Man's A Dinosaur Story was
off of this iceberg. And just how are we going to do that? There's nobody around here for miles. We've got to try. We have to look for a way to get off of this iceberg, or we'll freeze to death. Except for Dimetrodon.
At the same time, after I filmed that short scene, because it's a short scene, there was still a lot of snow around, so I decided, you know what, I'm gonna film some dino duels. That was probably my most popular season of dino duels. You can see I've labeled everything like season 1, season 2. We're on season 4 right now, but season 2 was all the snowy episodes. Now, there are a few new, since I started re-uploading them, I did make a few new snow episodes for season 2. Okay, that was just 5 new episodes. But everything else, originally it was 7 episodes, a 1-week-long season. And I thought I would just add a few more episodes to just flesh out the story a little more, even though the story was already pretty fleshed out to begin with. But it did answer some questions like where the Spinosaurus came from, how Barry used to live before he met the mammoth, and how the mammoth actually ruined everything for the caveman, which turned him into the tyrant he was. Wait, this isn't Dino Duels. This is supposed to be about a dinosaur story. Everything else was pretty straightforward after that. I was able to film, all of the scenes outside. I think I filmed, everything in order. Okay, so first of all, you see, you click on the movie, and the first thing you see is the disclaimer, and the music is Winged Transformations, which is a soundtrack that plays in the first movie a whole lot. And I was so glad I was able to find that soundtrack, and I was just able to use it in this movie, because that should already blast you with a wave of nostalgia, because every time I hear this music, I don't think of the dinosaurs. I think of A Dinosaur Story, because that's where I first heard it from. Although the first movie did use a lot of Lord of the Rings and Star Wars soundtrack, I did not use any of that because I had a lot of other music I wanted to use instead. I have my own taste. Like even the opening credits, which starts out with my usual opening, music from Studio Ghibli's La Puta. It's called Morning in the Mining Village. That's not the true, that's what the English title calls it. It's called something else in Japanese, but apparently it uses a word that's considered a bad word in other countries, so I won't say it. One thing I should note, that before filming the movie, I watched the first part of the original A Dinosaur Story, from the part where the opening all the way to when they escape the volcano island, so that it would still be fresh in my head when I started filming. And then I would say that this movie is probably the one that stays closest to the source material as possible. There's not really anything... Wait, do I not have... No captions available? What? Since when? So yeah, in terms of a story, there really wasn't anything too different for the first movie. It was just exactly like the original. This was basically like the test movie, where it's like, I'm still doing a good job, but I'm still not sure where I want to go with it just yet. And then that's where the feedback all came in, and I'll talk about that later when I'm done talking about this first movie. One interesting note about filming. So in the third movie, there's things where Dilophosaurus talks about his flashback, and even Pteranodon talking about how he was a spy and all that. That was actually a plan I had from the very beginning. And in this movie, while filming all the footage that you see in this movie, I also filmed those moments where Pteranodon is like helping Noasaurus secretly. I filmed all that footage, and then even bits where Dilophosaurus is in the background. Which is, it's a pretty simple thing, but I like little details like that. Those things make me smile. Another thing I should note about editing, this was filmed on iMovie. I mean, this was filmed with Apple technology. Apple phone, laptop, Mac. It's like, oh, it was a absolute pain working with Apple. I still have trauma from like all the videos I filmed with Apple. It's given me so much grief. There was always some sort of problem, and it made me so mad. And that's why I basically said, that's it, I'm done with Apple. I eventually switched to this Windows computer. And it's been so much better. I don't have to, there's like so much more storage, and it's so much easier for me to organize all of my files. So glad that, well, the first two movies, I still had to do it on iMovie, but the third movie was so much better to work with because I didn't have iMovie. Bits where I animated the rain was using Toon Boom Harmony, as well as the lava, and that was all Toon Boom. All that was basically, I did not have any like a Surface style pen or anything. I was using my mouse to draw all of it. I animated it all together and then just threw it into the video. I had to use, back then, again, using iMovie, I had to get creative. I had to use green screen. And iMovie's green screen is not that well made compared to DaVinci Resolve's. Also, all the boat scenes were basically filmed on my couch. Oh, there's this segment where we have like the deserted island. It's full of candy. That was when I finally got a Samsung phone over an iPhone. And there was this feature where I could just could litter the camera with all sorts of junk. And I used that for the deserted island. Yeah, I forgot, like this was filmed, I probably got that thing like halfway through the year, and there were some last minute things I had to add to the movie. So that was one of them. And Diplodocus is filmed using Jurassic World Alive, which if you've been on this channel long enough, you know that I play that game a lot, and I'm still using it in this situation. Like, I'm using it a lot more creatively in Dino Duels. King Tarbo's sidekick is a Smilodon. That's really it for filming and editing, because it's mostly just iPhone, whatever the iPhone can do, and whatever iMovie would allow me to do. So when I uploaded the movie, the feedback was very positive. There was a lot of people who loved it and wanted to see more. Of course, there was also some criticisms, but it wasn't like bad criticisms. It was like actually just friendly feedback, just that helped make the other movies better. The main one that I got was the characters of Noasaurus and Dimetrodon, and how they were just the worst. I'm gonna do Noasaurus first. So my thought process behind Noasaurus was supposed to be, he starts out very flawed and very full of himself. Not really thinking about anyone else, but he's only out for himself. I mean, he built a boat, but he's still like prioritizing himself, his safety, before anyone else's. And that was so that by the time we get to the last movie, he would be a changed dinosaur. He would be more sacrificing everything to save his friends, be more thoughtful and all that. Character progression. Unfortunately, I might have taken it to the extreme and made Noasaurus too unlikable in that first movie. And I took that feedback to heart, and the plan was always to make him better. But I guess I just took it way too far in that first movie. Secondly is Red Dimetrodon, who is just the worst. He is a jerk, period. He's not meant to be a sympathetic jerk. He is just a jerk. And there's an interesting reason to why I made him like that. Like, one reason for Dimetrodon being a jerk is because this Red Dimetrodon was never based on the A Dinosaur Stories Dimetrodon. He was actually a character made up by my brother, where this Dimetrodon was jealous of dinosaurs because dinosaurs are always getting all the attention and synapsids like him are always overlooked. So he grew bitter and hateful of them, and that was basically his role in Sodor's Dinosaurs. He was a Sodor's Dinosaurs character, but then when I came to this remake, I had grown so attached to this character that I decided I'll make him play the role of Dimetrodon in this movie, even though the characters are completely different and not meant to be the same. So it's the same story with Lunatic the Giganotosaurus playing Carcharodontosaurus in this movie. Again, two completely different characters, but I just melded them into one for the sake of this movie. Which is the reason why Carcharodontosaurus sounds so goofy and people hate his voice, because that's the voice we gave him as his character, the Lunatic. Ceratosaurus is another one I saw frequent complaints about, how he was like kinda speciesist towards the Allosauruses. Well, that one I can sort of justify him because, again, he has his reasons why, and then in this, I actually added a bit of dialogue showing just how crummy he's been treated by the Allosauruses in the past. I also got into a fist fight with Big Al at one point, which didn't help much. Okay, 2 Allosauruses, but seriously, dude, that's still not— Oh, and then there's the one that scanned me out of my Hawaiian vacation. Okay, so 3, but— Not to mention all the Allosauruses who kept picking on my son, like the school bully, the babysitter, the substitute teacher. Okay, dude, I get the picture. You can stop now. Again, I probably didn't have to make it. It's probably like Noasaurus where I made it too extreme. I think that's a lot of the way I wrote a lot of characters. One person, I forget who brought up the suggestion, said that I probably could have written it that he was just overprotective of his son, which I definitely could have done. But again, by then it was too late. I had already uploaded the movie. Okay, so 2 other characters I want to talk about. First of all, Junior, the Ceratosaurus. There's actually Junior and Ceratosaurus, honestly, both of them. They are clearly Ceratosauruses. They're both the same model. Junior's just a shrunk down version of his father. But then on both of them, there are different names written. On Junior, his name is written Allosaurus, which is absolutely ridiculous and super ironic considering the role in the movie. And as for Ceratosaurus himself, he is called an Oviraptor. Like, Chinosaurs, man. They just, I have quite a few other dinosaurs. I have a Chasmosaurus labeled as Styracosaurus. I've got a Dimetrodon labeled as Metriacanthosaurus. It's ridiculous. Okay, so back to Junior, though. He is one of my personal favorite characters because I just love to voice him. I can't really talk about myself right now because every time I talk, I just speak randomly words and I just have to come whatever comes to my mind, and it's just randomly and it comes out as gibberish and no one can understand what I'm saying because I'm speaking it so fast. I just love voicing Junior. Yeah, that's something else I should talk about. Like, a lot of the characters themselves a lot of them are just vastly different from their original counterparts. Some of the cases, like Red Dimetrodon and Lunatic, where they're just like they're meant to be completely different characters, not associated with their movie counterparts in this movie. But then a lot of them, like Ceratosaurus and Saltosaurus, I always imagined them as the characters they were supposed to be. But over time, they basically developed their own personalities that I gave them myself. Like, Saltosaurus became a very cowardly character, and Ceratosaurus is just kind of the straight man of the group, the best friend, the Noasaurus' BFF, and the guy who puts him on the straight path. Female Saltosaurus, that's the one who's like the biggest difference, because of course, she's a girl. And she like, both Saltosauruses in the first movie were like very hyper characters, and then these Saltosauruses, like, one is scared and the other is just smart and girl. Okay, Alan Slasher, which is the next character I want to talk about, is like probably everyone's favorite character from that first movie, where he's just like the cool movie star guy. Everyone just loved Alan Slasher. Like, yeah. So I made sure to give him plenty of dialogue in all the movies. He even got his own song in the second one, which I'll get to later. I had a Mosasaurus instead of an Elasmosaurus because I did not have a decently sized Elasmosaurus. I mean, I had an Elasmosaurus, but it's like a very squishy, gummy one. and that it's very tiny. It would not pose a threat at all. And then there was King Terry, which was another character that I made up when I was little, based off of Dinosaur King's Terry. I also had like a dinosaur for Chomp and Paris. Thanks to the Dinosaur King commentaries, that these characters basically got split from their toy counterparts, and they have different personalities now. Also, I painted Chomp, Ace, and Paris, so those are now my Chomp, Ace, and Paris, and they have brand new voices. If you again, Dinosaur King commentaries, if you watched it, you know it sounds a lot like Carl from the flip side, and Plankton is Paris is Plankton because it's a long story. Perry is another character from my childhood, meant to be like playing as like Paris' sister, but except more aggressive and mean, and except she sort of just became her own thing. Mammoth Tremor instead of the cavemen, because come on, how are cavemen gonna be a threat to an army of dinosaurs? Oh right, Dino Duel Season 2. They were kind of the main villains. Granted, one mammoth versus an army of dinosaurs ain't gonna do much better, but again, he's meant to be like some sort of like, he's also a cool dude, just like Aunt Slasher, so maybe he could have done something, but we never got to find out because Aunt Slasher made peace with him. So there's Diplocal's Gen 1 and there's Diplocal's Gen 2, and they're both kind of inverted colors of each other. But then I like how once he gets boiled in lava, he turns into the orange one, and he stays that way forever. I actually really like that. I don't know if I always planned on doing that, or if I just decided, hey, that'll make a fun coincidence. Another thing I should talk about Diplocalus, is honestly, like how I just decided to make him this immortal being who just has an endless supply of fish and is absolutely just cannot die. I think my thought process was because since he was like an AR character, so I couldn't really just get him to interact that well with all the other things. Like I can get him to interact with Noasaurus, but I can't get Noasaurus to interact with him. So my process was like, he's kind of like in a realm of his own, so he's like an untouchable being. And I guess also the fact that he can just make fish appear out of thin air. So yeah, I just sort of decided, let's make him immortal. And then it's just like, throw in Sketchy's voice to this character, and you have like basically another one of my favorite characters, because Sketchy is just an amazing voice actor.
If you don't release that baby, there's gonna be carnage!
I won't mention Dilophosaurus in this part because I think that's best to save him for like when he acts, because right now he's kind of there. He's not doing anything just yet. He's just one of the dudes. But then once we get to like the second or third movie, then I'll have a lot more to say about him. Right now, all I can say is that he was voiced by Indominus Rex 01, which is again one of my YouTube buddies. Like I asked Indominus, which character do you want to voice? And he said, I would love to play Dilophosaurus. And then now he is Dilophosaurus. And again, we'll talk about him more later when we get to the third movie. My brother was voicing Stegosaurus. Stegosaurus, there's really not much to talk about. He was just like a character who hated Noasaurus at first, and then once his brother was saved, then he was both fine. My brother plays both Stegosauruses. I still have fond memories of playing with both of these Stegosaurus toys, but mainly the one with the open mouth. That's the main Stegosaurus I used. And a character, again, based off of like the original Stegosaurus, except we gave him like a certain character where every time someone would approach him from behind and call his name, he would just turn around and say, sorry, what was that? And accidentally whack that person with his tail. King Terry was voiced by Gaming Utah Raptor 12, and he was originally supposed to come back to play King Terry again in the third movie, but at that point he lost interest in voice acting at that time, so King Terry remained silent in that movie. Matthew the Dinosaur King played a few dinosaurs at like the beginning of the movie, and Alex the Titanosaur played Tremor the Mammoth. Both of those two were voice actors that Sketchy recommended, and Sketchy basically like found my lines video, sent it to them, they picked which characters they wanted to voice, and they send the lines in. One other thing I forgot to mention about Ceratosaurus is his backstory with about how he lost his mate. The reason being that like this was from because there's this one Allosaurus versus Ceratosaurus video from Jurassic Fight Club. It's a music video called Won't Back Down. I always felt bad how the Ceratosaurus in Jurassic Fight Club is always just getting picked on by Allosaurus every single time. All of them just die to Allosaurus. Nothing else, just Allosaurus. So that was basically my inspiration to make that his backstory of how his wife got killed by an Allosaurus, very similar to the way she dies. The one dies in Jurassic Fight Club, and that was his backstory. Whew, finally got that off my chest. Okay, I think now that is all about characters. So now we're just gonna move on to the music of the movie, because I love music. I love using music in my videos. Of course, most of the time that leads to copyright strikes, but I haven't, and then, of course, if it's like something like a big deal, like a block, then I remove it and I don't use it. But for the most part, these are the types of music I use. There was a lot of music from Laputa Castle in the Sky, which I mentioned earlier, like Morning in the Mining Village, Robot Soldier Resurrection, The Final Showdown, Destruction of Laputa, Dola and the Pirates. I'm just reading the credits here. I have a few music that I used from, only 2 music from Nazca, actually. Both of them, like, unofficial soundtracks that weren't really released, like, part of the movie. They were just, like, they're part of the album, but they're not part of the movie. I could have sworn I used more. Maybe I used more in future movies because, again, Nazca of the Valley of the Wind is my absolute favorite movie ever. And the fact that I only used 2 soundtracks is kind of shocking to me. Well, I mean, Laputa is another one of my favorites, so it does make sense that I used a lot of that music. Land Before Time got 1 soundtrack in. You all know which one it is. It's very iconic. The most music I used was from Hunter x Hunter, though. In fact, it's the main theme of the credit. You can always hear it. It's the one that goes. It's also the same. I also use like Hunter x Hunter music for the Tropiognathus Brothers theme and for when they're lost on the iceberg. And basically just a lot of their music is used here. I also used a lot of Thomas the Tank Engine music from Sodor Themes, SA Music. I believe it is SA Music, right? I think I'm crediting the right guy. He made all of the music, and of course they are free to use, so I did use them. I used a lot of Hat in Time, a bit of Little Nightmares. Of course, Little Nightmares we'll talk about that more later. Arc music, and of course my outro is just the Hilda's end credits from the Netflix show, my favorite Netflix show, Hilda.
Time to go.
And again, after it was all done together, I uploaded it. Everyone gave positive feedback. There were some critiques here and there, but again, those made the next 2 movies way better than this one, because this is like the weakest movie. It's like it's still trying to stay true. It's like too true to the original source material, but it's also like doing some things differently. Some things were good, some things were bad, but mostly a lot of people liked it and were very excited for the second movie, which I actually have it actually has a very different production history compared to this one, which was very just straightforward. All the footage that you see in this first movie is pretty much the first movie the first footage I recorded for the movie. There were like almost no reshoots in this movie at all, which is not the same for Escape from Nightmare Canyon.
Oh wait, never mind. It's actually about this weirdo.
Let's see how SpongeBob's party is shaping up.
I don't know what I've been told. I don't know what I've been told.
And that is why a shark would probably beat Dracula.
And that is why in a straight fight, a shark would probably beat a Dracula.
Should we send some cryptic message to the future?
What? Okay, I'm just gonna say this right now. I'm pretty annoyed that all the dinosaurs say in this show is, please help us, please help us, please help us, please help us.
Oh dear, I've been tricked, backstabbed, and quite possibly bamboozled.
We've been tricked, we've been backstabbed, and we've been quite possibly bamboozled.
The zombie Camarasaurus after me! What is that thing on your head?
Why, it is my shipment, of course! At least the only one I was able to pack on time.
I've hidden myself so well, he'll never find me.
We've been tricked!
We've been backstabbed!
Oh, I'm quite possibly bamboozled. Oh, I'm gonna throw up in the ocean.
How are we clapping?
I have no idea.
How are we clapping? I have no idea.
Now would be a good time to panic!
That now is the time to panic!
Oh no! Not the baby!
Oopsie, not the baby!
I believe now would be a good time to panic! I also got into a fist fight with Big Al at one point, which didn't help much.
I also got into a fist fight with Stan Lee in 1973, which didn't help things.
This is the greatest. Okay, no, this was not a good plan.
This is the greatest plan.
You saved our lives!
We are eternally grateful.
but saved our lives. We are eternally grateful.
But that's a story for another day.
But that is a story for another day.